Good morning, everybody. It's the 6th of August, 2023, and it's Sunday morning. I love Sunday mornings. A lot more calm. And I'm just kind of in some, I don't know, I've never been here. Some sort of a neighborhood. It's like, here's an old house in need of repairs. Interesting design. Bushes in front here. The new secret weapon of the Russians. Here's some cherry trees of some sorts here. Those red cherries, because they're red down below. Some yellow cherries. Looks like somebody's picked most of the low ones. But Castanian tree. Well, I'll show you the front part of this. I'd put a new door on there. And pigeon living up there on the top here. Interesting. I don't know. Looks like an apartment building of some sorts. Maybe just 4 apartments. It's like some apple trees over here. No, this is kind of a, looks like a not very busy neighborhood. Dumpsters here. Yeah, apple tree. Looks like nobody's picking the apples. They're probably not quite ripe yet. Another similar type of house. I don't know. Like I said, I'm on a voyage of discovery here, and I'm going to get into some news. So if you don't think I'm going to be talking about it, you can tell by the windows here. We need to get some new windows. Look at that. A fixer-upper. Be kind of nice. Quiet place, but very central. Metro, a couple of minutes walk from here. Oh, very interesting when you find some of these old houses. Actually, houses in Belarus are cheaper than apartments. And the reason for that is the apartments mostly are always owned by the government. And as far as the building is concerned, building outside, yard work, roofs and all that is all maintained by the government, and that's part of your maintenance cost, which is very low, by the way. And if you own a house, you've got to take care of it all yourself. So that's why the prices are lower for houses. And you know, you have winters here, and then you got to pay for your own heating. And in an apartment building, of course, you're paying for your heating, but you know, that's a portion of everybody has to pay that's in that apartment building. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I think the average cost of all your bills in Belarus, if you're in an apartment, and it almost doesn't matter what size it is. Like, say if you have an apartment that's very small, 50 square meters, and then say you get an apartment maybe that's 90, 100 square meters, your bills are apparently the same. You know, your heating bill is even the same, I think. It depends on the building. I think, you know, it's like heating in just about every country in the world. I didn't know this until some years ago, that there's only one heating meter in a building. So if you have a building with one family, you know, that has to pay, or if you have a building with 10 families, they divide up the cost of that 1 meter. Oh, a kitty. Look at this. Dark kitty. I don't have any food. I never do, don't I? What are you doing? Sunday. Looks like it lost part of its tail here. Like I said, in Baranovici, you know, most all the cats are friendly, and here they're a little bit more skittish. Makes sense in the city. Another cherry tree. It's like somebody's got a lot of those. A lot of cherry trees here. Okay, news. You know, the smell of war is in the air big time now. And Poland, I don't even understand their viewpoint. What the heck? What is in their minds? I don't know if they are just crazy. Lukashenko said that they are. But they want something. I don't know what Poland wants. Tell me, you know. What do they want? Do they want war? They want power? Do they want land? They want respect, they want money. I don't know. Maybe they want all of those things. Poland, they've vowed to become the European power. very, very soon. They want to be the most powerful country in Europe. But I think Alex Cristoforo just mentioned that. I didn't see that video yet, but I think it was his last video that he just put out. And I think with the economic data that is now coming through, that Russia is now the major economic power of Europe. And as you know, Russia is also in Asia. And there was somebody in the Ukraine government, Danilov, the head of their security services, he says that Russians are Asians and that they have they're different. They're different than the Ukrainians, you know. In other words, they're not Slavic. The Russians aren't Slavic. You know, of course there are Russians that aren't Slavic. There are Asian Russians. But he's saying that all of them are Asians. And then he's saying that Asians are uncivilized and brutal. And whatever you noticed about the Ukraine, at least what you're getting the opinion about the Ukraine as far as what the government, the opinion that we are forming based on the actions of the government, he is attributing those qualities to Russians. So it is projection, of course. All kinds of projection going on nowadays. So, and that's one of them. I wonder what this building is. Yeah, Alex Cristoforo now, he's in Russia. All kinds of things to see there, in St. Petersburg. And everybody thinks of Moscow and Moscow alone, but you know, St. Petersburg is also very nice. I don't know what this is. There's a sign. I don't want to go read it because I probably can't understand it anyway. A lot of time I can't. Some kind of a nice building here. I don't really want to go on the road, but there's people walking there. It's a little bit more interesting. It's just a little bit too loud, I think. But Poland. A lot to talk about Poland here. Poland's deputy foreign minister, his name is Paweł Jablonski. He says that Wagner operatives make repeated attempts to infiltrate Poland. And it's like, really? Really? I mean, can you show us some evidence of this? And a lot of people are talking about that. Well, where's the evidence of this? There is no evidence. There is no evidence. Nobody's been able to find it. Even this thing about this helicopter, as you heard, first Poland said there was no infiltration, the government put out, and then they changed their mind a little later and said, yes, they did. They were just flying low. They were flying low. Flew into Polish territory. And then Belarus released information to Poland to show them all of activities of any kind of plans or anything that Belarus was doing that involved helicopters in that part of Belarus for that day, and there was nothing. They had no plans, they had no helicopters in the air at that time in that area. Maybe in some place nearby, but it was basically it's all fabricated. It's fabricated by Poland, and I don't really understand why Poland is now in the big area. They're worse than the Ukrainians. You know, at least the Ukrainians, there's a little bit of a shred of truth in some of the things they say, but in this one here, there is none whatsoever. And they're saying that, I'll just continue here with this, what this deputy foreign minister says. Paweł Jablonski. He says Wagner operatives make repeated attempts to infiltrate Poland. Not only that, he said, based on that, they are considering the full isolation of Belarus. And of course, what they're actually meaning on that is, as you know, they have this tight relationship with Lithuania. They're in some ways appearing to be like one country, or trying to become one country, like they were in, you know, sometime in the history that it was the duchy and all that sort of thing. Lithuania used to be a very powerful country. And I should also mention that parts of Lithuania used to be part of Belarus. Vilnius used to be a Belarusian city. But now I believe that's the capital. That's the capital of Lithuania. But it used to belong to Belarus. A lot of people don't know that. But I didn't even know that until about some months ago. I'm not a specialist in the history of Belarus. I'm trying to learn while I'm here. So And I didn't even know that much about Stefan Bandera and all that, and then you're finding out since you've been here. And as you notice, all of you notice, you know, what I've been talking about here is the Banderites were very, very active in Belarus. Massacres beyond anything you can imagine, probably more than in Poland. And yet everybody talks about Poland and Russia, but they don't talk about Belarus. Everything that happens in Belarus is not really talked about so much, strangely enough. It's kind of like unmentioned country, like what happened to Chernobyl. This problem in Chernobyl, and everybody sent lots of money to Ukraine, but Belarus got the worst of it because it's right on the border of Belarus, and most of the contamination went to Belarus. Belarus spent huge sums of money and got into large debt trying to clean up most of those areas there, and then there's some area that's a little bit too bad, so that's a no-go zone, and that's one of the zones I was going to go to. And you know, I guess if you go there, I don't know if there's parts of that area where you really can't go. I don't know. But people are going to areas right near the reactor in Chernobyl. So I'm guessing that it's not quite so bad. I see a cat hunting over here. Let me go see. Well, maybe it's not. Just difficult to see. But like I said, Poland, they're going crazy over there. And so they want to cut off Belarus from everything, close the border, and are already building fences in most of the border areas. And actually, I think Belarus would be very happy about that. It keeps them from invading from those areas. But anyway, those things are very easy to knock down. They're metal fences, and I've seen just photos of them, and it's like if they want to attack, they can very easily do that, which is the same with Belarus. Belarus can do it too. And so that's not anything to to impede anybody really. That fence. And of course I don't know if they have minefields there. Ukraine has minefields between Belarus and Ukraine, but I don't think it's in the entire area, and it's not as hostile between Belarus and Ukraine as it is between Poland and Belarus, believe it or not. And you know, there's still a lot of roads that you can cross with. I was thinking that's part that when I get to that Gonzalo Lira, he should have possibly maybe more considered going into Belarus than Hungary. I'm not sure. I don't know if it really matters that much, to be honest with you. I was thinking it would be better if he went to Belarus, but you know, it would be better when he comes into Belarus. There's no doubt about that. But I don't know about crossing the border and how he would cross the border. That would be a little bit difficult, of course. Don't bring it to. So strange people. It's like they break their neck watching you. I don't know. It's just kind of funny. But what did he say? This is strange. This foreign minister. Anyway, that Belarus is already kind of shut off anyway from Lithuania and Latvia, and that you can't travel by train between these countries anyway anymore. That was cut off long ago, many years ago, and I don't even know why. I'm trying to find out. People don't talk about it, because that was the number one way to go between Europe and Belarus was by train. So, but hasn't existed for quite some time. And then you have to go by car or fly, and you have to fly into Minsk. There's other airports, of course, but Minsk, I guess, is the one. If you're coming from some foreign country, you have to fly into Minsk. I guess that's some kind of a regulation here for Belarus. And they say, Poland says, "Oh, we don't want to shut down the border." Well, of course they do. They do want to shut down the border. They really. I'm not talking about the Polish people. I'm talking about the government. The government of Poland really, really, really hates Belarus. I think it's because they're ordered to. They're ordered to from the West. And I don't know. Poland, they have some. It's similar to the Ukrainians. There's a lot of these, like these Banderites, and I think most people can't understand these people anyway. I'm sad to say this, but I think these people have some sort of. Obviously, and I'm sure you agree with me, there's a form of insanity there. They have this racial superiority thing, and there's not that much different, believe it or not, between the Polish government and the Banderites, because those people are, in a sense, just Banderites with a maybe a tiny little twist, here and there, but they're Banderites. Moraviki and Duda, those are, I would put them in the camp of Nazis. So, a little bit different. They have little bit different enemies, just a little bit. They still hate the Russians. They hate Russians. They want to kill Russians. And I guess maybe that's the neo-Nazi view anyway now, is a hatred of Russians. And of course they still hate Jews. And like Roseanne Barr said, just because like Zelensky's Jewish and some of these other people that hate Jews are Jewish, she said, just because you're skinfolk or kinfolk doesn't mean you're skinfolk, or whatever the difference that was. I know what she means by that. Doesn't mean that you love your own people. Even in Israel, what do they call it? Self-hating Jews or something like that. But they use it in a different term. I think a lot of these, what do they call them? Zionist Jewish people, they call self-hating Jews those that would rather see the Zionist become more humanistic. So, as long you're supposed to be hating. I don't know. It's very strange how this product of hatred is becoming mainstream nowadays. That's why I'm glad to be over here. A lot of people are saying, get over here. Gonzalo Lira said that. And I'm going to get into that. I don't think he's an agent of the SBU. And he was telling people in the United States, get out. There's a guy that lives over here in Minsk. I haven't met him yet. He's called the Irish Partisan. He has a YouTube channel called Irish Partisan. And, he mostly talked about a lot of tourist sort of things, but he's talked also lately about political sort of things. And one he was saying is that people in the West should get out. They should get out of there and come over here because things are much better over here. There's a lot more sanity. And I think a lot of what he was talking about was like economics in Ireland and stuff, like you like renting an apartment, you rent it for half the day and somebody else is renting it for the other half the day. It's just a room, and it's basically a bed. It's not even the room, it's the bed. So and it's so difficult to make it there that you're working a full-time job and you get to sleep in that bed. The bed is actually yours for 12 hours, and for another 12 hours it's somebody else's. I'm just wondering what happens on the weekends or whatever when they have days off. So I don't know. And what do? You have to keep changing the sheets or something? I don't know. Depending on who else has that bed for the other 12 hours. That's, I think that's in Dublin or some of those really expensive places, some parts of Ireland. And they said, they said they mentioned something that continued attacks by Wagner, and this is totally ludicrous stuff. Totally, it's. They said that they will shut off the border as a last resort, but if there are continued attacks, we may have no other option, Poland says. And they're more suspicious, and I think Annie Akey has mentioned this on her side, that they're worried about this Suwalki Gap, and that's like a short part of a border between Lithuania and Poland, and Belarus kind of goes out in that direction, and that part of Belarus is the shortest distance to Kaliningrad, part of Russia, which is I guess you call it an enclave. It's sort of, it's cut off from all the rest of Russia, and these countries, they cut off the Lithuanian, Latvia, probably. Is Latvia the border there too, I think? Anyway, but they don't allow, they often cut off the traffic where nobody can travel to Kaliningrad that way. You have to go by boat or by air, and I don't even know if they allow you to use their airspace. They're being just pretty Nazis. They're being Nazis, and they do it for no reason. For no reason, except they're probably given orders from the West. It's because they don't ever come up with anything substantial why they're doing this sort of stuff and why they have this animosity towards Belarus, for example. I don't think you'll find anywhere of anything that Belarus has ever really done. They said they were flying refugees in from who knows where and pushing them across the border. But the deal was, I think a lot of time Belarus was actually preventing a lot of these people and not letting them in the country or something, or sending them back. I don't really know, but that was a great expense for Belarus. And then I think when they started the hostilities against Belarus, maybe it was right after the military operation, I'm not positive. Maybe it was, I think it might have been before. Anyway, Belarus was just letting them go to the border because their goal is to get to Germany, most of them. And very, 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 very substantial reports that Poland has massacred lots of these people. The ones that get through, you know, and then there's mass graves. There's a lot of Polish border guards that have defected into Belarus, and they said that they can show the Belarusians where the mass graves are, where they buried a lot of these refugees that have been, you know, seeking to get into the European Union, and they were, you know, lined up like by firing squad and shot to death. People. So, and I don't know, it sounds substantial to me, but yeah, Poland is a I don't know, a country as a loose cannon. I'll tell you what, that's the one to watch. That's the next Ukraine, and I think they're going that way anyway. I didn't write in my notes, but they used to have a military, like, I think it was similar to the size of Belarus. I think it was right around 60,000, and this was not long ago. This was maybe, I think, I'm just guessing, I'll just say about 2 years ago, it was like only 60,000. And then they increased it up to right around now, it is 172,000 in there. And let's find out about their mobilization, how they're getting that many people. And anyway, the goal, at least right now, is to be over 300,000 troops. 300,000. And Russia and Belarus combined don't even have 300,000 in Belarus. So they're gearing up for something. And as everybody has known, Emil Kosman was mentioning that they ordered 500 HIMAR, not rockets, 500 HIMAR launch pad systems. 500! And what did Ukraine have? At the beginning of the when they first got these HIMARS, they were quite devastating, and they were using them mostly to bomb civilians in Donetsk. And they had, I think, I don't know, was it 12 or 24 or something? And now Russia shoots down all the rockets. They probably from capturing some of these things and maybe some unexploded munitions, they can shoot down just about everything that's shot from a HIMAR. At least these missiles that they're using right now. I think they have longer range missiles, and the U.S. hasn't sent those yet. I don't know. And I believe part of those are the ATACMS. I think the ATACMS missiles can be fired through HIMARS systems. So, and the U.S., they might have sent them already, but they're just not saying that. That's normally how things work. And yeah. But Morawiecki, Prime Minister of Poland, is saying Wagner is undoubtedly, he used the word undoubtedly, moving towards a hybrid attack on Polish territory. And Lukashenko after that said that Warsaw has gone mad. And you know, part of this is stemming from this joke, and Lukashenko has come out and said that it was a joke, and it was just a joke to amuse Putin. I think it was 2 weeks ago, and he said, oh, the Wagner forces, they're itching to make an excursion towards Warsaw or something like that. And you can't believe that the Polish heads of state are so incredibly stupid and so incredibly cowardly that they're flipping out and doing all of this stuff. I don't know, is it a combination of both, or is it neither? Or are they just playing? They're just playing like it was a serious threat. And maybe that was their intentions, is to just, you know, it's obviously their intention to keep on building the military as much as possible. And Lukashenko has never threatened any country militarily. As a matter of fact, if there's anybody that should get a Nobel Peace Prize in Europe, it should be Lukashenko. He's been there for quite a long time, and they all admit that he's been there quite a long time. And name any wars that they were in. I think they sent some operatives when there was a attempt to overthrow the government of Kazakhstan not that long ago, maybe about a year ago, and they had some troops involved in that with Russia, of course, to save Kazakhstan. And Kazakhstan, you know, they're kind of in a precarious position too, so they can't even become big allies of Russia. So they have to kind of play a middle ground, as you've been noticing. U.S. is has got some things there. U.S. has even got, I can't even talk about certain laboratories. Got certain laboratories doing certain sort of things that, like that was going on in Ukraine. I'm not allowed to talk about that. That's what I was censored for the most part. So, and there's other things about that, and the shot in the arm and things like that, but I can't really get into it so much. But anyway, they've gone mad, and I think Poland is saying that there was 100-man force of Wagner, and you know, you hear these things, oh, they're attacking Poland, you know, as if, you know, and they don't have any proof, and there's no video evidence, and there's nothing. And if that actually happened, how come they didn't call for Article 5 of NATO, and which is, of course, obviously BS. And I think the U.S. and most everybody knows that it's just BS. Or maybe they just, behind closed doors, they say, yeah, we're just making this up. But we have to keep on provoking Belarus, because maybe they'll do something, and then we can get a full-fledged war against them. I don't know. Like I said, I can't figure out what the heck Poland's big plan is. And Lukashenko said they have had some Wagner people maybe traveling there, going in between, for example, Brest and Grodno, but doing some training, and they're not on the border really at all. They might have even gotten close to the border. Maybe they've been 50 meters from the border or something and looked at it, but not even 100 man, and there's no attacks into Poland. Like I said, if there was an attack, you know, why didn't Poland respond to that? Yeah, so. And Lukashenko also mentioned that he has no troops, they have never moved, and don't intend on moving anything towards this Suwalki Gap. And he was saying something about maybe in 1,000 years they might be interested. Belarus might be interested. Okay. And now you can talk about more war. We're talking about now Niger. Incredible stuff going on there, and it was odd that a lot of the stuff was kicking off during the Africa Summit. And of course, this new government has the what's his name? I wrote it down here. I can't keep these guys' names to Bazoum. They've got Bazoum under house arrest. Nothing is happening to him. I think he's even got access to his computer, because he's sent out some sort of messages asking the United States to militarily invade, and you know, and France has shown an interest in wanting to invade militarily. Nigeria, which is part of these states, this West African states, it's an economic union. It sounds like it's called the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. Economic. So what about military? I mean, and they're threatening to invade militarily, and for some, I don't know why Nigeria. I think everybody's looking at some different spoils. You know, they think they can go in and take a portion of this and take a portion of that. And this Bazoum guy, obviously, he's a puppet of the United States. Blinken was there. I mentioned that in the last video. He's just there a couple months ago, and you know, and of course they're making their plots on how they can foil Russia's influence in Africa. And now the guy's not there. And where was it? I wrote here, Prigozhin. He said, and he's down, I guess he was down there not long ago, maybe he still is. He said it's a justified rebellion of the people against Western exploitation. So it is, and these people are rebelling because it's been an exploited country, just like a lot of these other ones, like Mali was exploited. You know, France is there sucking the gold out of Mali for all this time, and leaving them just some crumbs. And I think Wagner was instrumental in getting rid of the French forces there. And the French are still in Niger, Niger, however you want to call it, and they said they're going to stay there. So, because it was a signed agreement, and at that time with the government, and I think that Niger can actually honor that agreement, and I think they can still remain, you know, prominent as to what they're doing. And Russia is not trying to get involved at all. They're trying to stay as far away from it as possible. But then you have Wagner, you know. So that was the whole purpose of Wagner anyway, is, you know, and sure, they're tied to the Russian government in a way, but it's not like that they're got ants crawling on me now. It must have been sitting in an ant place. Make sure they're not all over the place. Yeah, so there's some sort of a deal here, so they don't have I guess you call it plausibility or whatever. And but Niger has asked for help from Wagner. So let's see what happens there. And there's was supposed to be an ultimatum. These Economic Union of West African States, they said that Niger has, I think it was a week at that time when they said it, that they have 1 week to reinstal Bazoum, and that runs out today. This is Sunday, so I don't know if there's going to be anything happening today or it's going to happen tomorrow. So we'll see what happens by evening time, and then see if something happens in the morning. I don't know if they've hatched up some plans, but just keep your eyes on that. Keep your eyes on that, and that could really blow up to something big, and it could involve other powers. A lot of people are saying that it's going to involve some so-called superpowers, plural. Yeah. So, and it's obvious if you want to talk about superpowers, for example, it's obvious that the military superpower of the world today, now, is not the United States, because they've done, in this proxy war in Ukraine, they've done about all they can, and everybody is now seeing before their eyes ineffectiveness of a lot of these Western weapons and the ineffectiveness of a lot of these tactics against the Russians. And Russia is just beating them hands down, and they have to commit so many massively more forces, I think, to to have any kind of success against the Russians. So I don't know. It looks like it's different, of course, if you're talking about nuclear war, and apparently Russia has even more of those. But Russia has a lot more sophisticated weapons, and I think the whole world is now starting to see that. So nothing more to say about that. And also last night, Saturday night, Ukraine bombed Donetsk city in 4 districts using cluster bombs. Lots and lots of fires, fires in all 4 districts. Residential buildings, of course, houses, and the university, I think the School of Economics, I think it was. I think it was the School of Economics is on fire there, and lots of, fire damage. A lot of these bombs exploded in air, and they had flammables in there, so it's there, a lot of burning of buildings and things like that. And I don't know about deaths. I didn't see anything, but they, the day before they attacked an oil tanker, and they did damage, but the oil didn't leak out. It's like they're trying, and I think Dmitry Medvedev has come out, and he has, slammed them. Let me see if I think I wrote down the quote up here in the front. Okay, Medvedev calls for more escalation. Actually, he is saying that they have to be more brutal, because it wasn't enough what they did in Odessa, Russia, and what's that other town there on the border of Romania? Can't remember what that's called, but yeah, they did some devastating attacks on the port infrastructure in those places, and yeah, and Ukraine is still bombing civilians and doing all that sort of stuff, and Medvedev believes that they only understand brutality, and they've actually said that themselves, that they're really into the brutality, what they want to do to Russians, what they have been doing to Russians. Oh man, and I know you hear about these atrocities. I'll tell you what, I don't even talk about that stuff. I do talk about that, but I don't like to dwell on it, what they're doing to even civilians or anybody that's sympathetic to Russia. Talk about an ideology of hate. And I read that quote to you yesterday. It was from George Bush the First, and he said at that time that he was against, what's going on in Ukraine, that these people are building their government and their country and their culture on hatred of another ethnic group. It was amazing, because that was during the Cold War times, I think, still 1991, right around the time of the transition. And yeah, but I'm not saying that George Bush actually means that. You don't know politicians and what they mean. They say all kinds of things. There's only a few politicians. When Lukashenko talks, he means what he says, except he sometimes obviously jokes. like he was joking about Wagner wanting to go. And it was a harmless joke anyway. He didn't say they're going to send them. He just said they want to go to Warsaw. So he jokes sometimes, but other things, when he's serious, and he's not lying, and he's not pulling some strings and doing things for these sneaky ways, Justin Trudeau and all these other snakes. Annalena Baerbock, she might even be honest. I think, remember when she said she pretty much didn't care about the Germans, but she wanted to do everything for Ukraine? I'm wondering why she's not over, the foreign minister of Ukraine. What the heck is she doing there in Germany? I don't even know why the Germans don't throw her out. I think there has been something in the news recently that she is, I think it was Alex Christoforo might have mentioned that, that it's all, that people have to, she wants everybody to shut up about her. I don't know what they were saying about being sarcastic or something, but you don't have to be sarcastic, with the old 360 degrees Annalena there, that. So let's see, did I say something? I'll tell you what, but the West, in my opinion, it's not like that they only understand this. Maybe Ukraine makes it look like they only care about aggression and hatred, but they care a lot more about money, money and power. And I think what Medvedev should do is make the war more expensive, because the U.S. cares far more. I mean, I'm talking about government. They care, even though they're neocons and they're pretty nasty people over there, as you know, but they care far more about money. So they have to make this, if Russia can make this much more costly for the United States, I think then they'll have a lot more success in probably bringing this thing to an end, because money, and that's about most how everything is in the West. And it's we are all conditioned and culturized and trained probably to look at money as being so important. I mean, in my case, it's not like I really have to go out and get rich. I don't really have that much of a desire to that, but I do want security. I don't want to, and there's so many people. How many times have you been cheated out of your money? How many times? And people have no qualms about cheating you out of your money. To me, it's like, I can't even believe it. I just shake my head and say, why would somebody do that to somebody? Like, say, giving you a product that doesn't work and things like that, and when you're paying good money for it and something that you really worked hard for. Anyway, some guy went, I don't know, some old guy here. I could show you, why not? I don't know if you can see it. He's doing something by the garbage can here too. No, he was looking at me. I don't know, just curious on what I'm doing, maybe here in a foreign language, but yeah, I wanted to also talk something about Gonzalo Lira. I saw something, I think it was a Call of Duty or whatever that's called, this guy named Norman something, and Scott Ritter was on there, and too much animosity between both of those two. Gonzalo Lira, apparently, he said some sort of I don't know if this was after, I think it must have been before he was going towards the border, I'm just guessing. And he asked Scott Ritter to, no, as a matter of fact, this is after. Somehow, Scott, Jackson Hinkle, he was a little off on this. I think he's trying to stay positive on Scott Ritter's attitude as well, and Gonzalo Lira. And I think he might be a peacemaker if we can all do that. He's got a big enough name, he's a smart enough guy, and I think that Jackson Hinkle can probably maybe resolve something between these two. And Scott Ritter, he seems very convinced that Gonzalo Lira is a operative of the SBU. I don't see that much. There are some suspicious things, but to me, there's always a lot of suspicious things, and it's so easy to always point and say, you're this because of that. And he was already wrong one time. I don't want to brag on Scott Ritter, but he was already wrong one time. I think he was hearing some things, and he had believed that Gonzalo Lira had been killed. And then Gonzalo Lira, he reacted very harshly, and he was saying something about, I think he called Scott Ritter disgusting, and that's maybe, about something else, things maybe, I don't know, things in Scott Ritter's past, and I don't hold that against him really, because, Whatever it was, I don't know. I'm not going to look into it so much. I don't know the whole story and all that. And besides that, we all make mistakes. Gonzalo Lira makes mistakes too. Gonzalo, he shouldn't have stayed in Kharkiv, obviously. But you know, Scott Ritter was talking about that it was very fishy, you know, and all of this sort of stuff. And it certainly is fishy. It certainly is fishy. If I were Gonzalo Lira, I would have got out of there. But I think, you know, notice that he was in the Kharkiv region. There's a lot of pro-Russian people in that area. And, you know, he laid low anyway. And maybe the attitude of the SBU is a little bit lighter over there than it is, say, in Kiev or Lvov, you know, which are, you know, very strong in the Banderite ideology. And Kharkov maybe a little bit less. Gonzalo Lira never took up arms against Ukraine. Gonzalo Lira had U.S. citizenship, so maybe that is why they had kid gloves on when they were dealing with Gonzalo Lira. You know, so you could say, oh, it's suspicious that they didn't take him in and disappear him already before. They took him in for some 5 days and then released him, and then he was still talking negatively about Ukraine, and he was. And like I said, for those reasons, being an American citizen and being in that region, and he never took up arms against him. Gonzalo Lira, he lived very simply, and he said that, and he was looking like some guy that was a waiter. I mean, if you look at him, he looks like he's a waiter in some place or something, you know. But he had some decent money. He's by no means a very rich person. Like I don't know what he had, 100,000 U.S. dollars or so, you know. I'll tell you what, you can lose that very quickly. I think he had a little more than that. He had more maybe in a couple of different places. You don't put your chickens in all one basket, your eggs in one basket. And as he said, they shafted him out of like what, 70,000 or something, and then got a lot of his cash. And but you know, I don't know. I'm not gonna. I don't have access to anybody's bank account or anything, and all that. But I really don't see, because if what would Gonzalo Lira's purpose be if he was working for the SBU? You know, there is no purpose. Now recently, I'll tell you what. Recently, there's somebody on the internet. I believe it's on YouTube. I've only seen a picture of him. I didn't really listen to what it is, but he's there. He's telling Belarusian citizens to come to the United States. You know, he's a very, very properly primed guy. He's got his nice haircut and a beautiful suit and good studio and all that sort of thing. Looks like some news anchor or something like that. And yeah, and he's telling Belarusians to, you know, and I think there's probably some way to contact this guy or this organization or something. And I believe that that's just some sort of an operation, because obviously they're not going to take Belarusian people to the United States. So, and apparently it's all fake. And what it is they're trying to probably find out, if they can, if they have a large support amongst the citizenry of Belarus when they plan this coup d'etat that they said that they're planning on doing. The U.S. State Department said they are planning on overthrowing the government of Belarus. Poland said they're going to overthrow the government of Belarus. Lithuania, they all say that. So anyway, they're planning an attack on Belarus, but Belarus has no plans to attack Poland or anywhere. So this is all backward stuff. But yet they're the good guys, and Belarus are the bad guys. How does that work out now? It's incredible. It's these mind games, how they can convince people who the good guys are. The good guys are the ones that do the bad things, and the bad guys are the ones that don't threaten anybody. What a world, what a world. Can you see that? You start adding up in plus and minus columns and you find out really what's going on, and then you start to wonder, you know, how in the heck did I think those are the good guys and these are the bad guys? But anyway, that's what that's all about. Gonzalo Lira, I don't think so. I don't know if there's been any messages whether he's been able to get to Hungary or not. And you know, he said he was going to release something if he did, and we haven't heard anything for some days. So I don't really know what the heck Gonzalo Lira is doing, you know. And I'll tell you, the best way to find out is give him a chance. If you think that he's some agent and there's something that you don't like about or things that are suspicious. They certainly are. There's some things that were suspicious. Why didn't he leave? I would have left already long ago. Maybe he's got family there. Maybe somebody needs some special medical care and they can't be unhooked and they can't travel. I have no idea. There might be some really logical explanation why he didn't leave before. I don't know. Maybe he just loves it there. I don't know. Older people, I know, I'm one of them. They like to stay settled somewhere, even though apparently I'm not like that because I'm moving all over the place all the time. Having to start over. I was at 20 years, then I moved over here. You know, this sickness that was going around that they like to censor me for. So, but that's about it, you know. And I didn't say anything about Trump, you know. That is really important. That's some crazy stuff here. A lot of people are talking about that. Why would they be going to these extremes? You have somebody who has, at least as far as evidence that has been presented to us, was probably the most corrupt president in U.S. history. By far, the most corrupt president in U.S. history. I mean, you could put this guy in corrupt people. You could put them right up there with Hillary Clinton, and there's some of these other people like this Bankman-Fried. You know, he's a beginner compared to Joe Biden. You know, and anyway, and then you have Trump, who, you know, he might have done a couple things, kind of this and that maybe not quite so nice, but maybe not really illegal. Or not, I think something about this endorsement when he had this university or something like that, or the school of something. So that was kind of a weird thing. But as far as Trump, in most ways, he's absolutely amazing that he's probably involved in less corruption than any of the last presidents that we've had, maybe the last 5, or I don't know, maybe all of them in my lifetime. I have no idea. But and I'm not saying I agree with everything about Trump. Like I said, I didn't like the fact that he bombed Soleimani. There's no court case or nothing like that, and a lot of, you know, other people died there on that thing as well. So, and I don't think that Soleimani was necessarily such a nasty guy anyway. So, like I said, there was no real court. You know, U.S. intelligence is not really the most honest people in the world. So that's all about to say about that. But anyway, let's see what happens. Trump's supposed to, they said that with all the things that they got against him, it would be 561 years in prison or something like that. But I think this one is supposed to be for this January 6th thing. It's supposed to be an overthrow. It was a friggin' protest. It was a protest, but yet, I can't remember who was it. Maybe it was Alex Cristoforo, you know, because he's my favorite. I watch him a lot. So they probably just kept this going. They got to keep this going for years and years. And there were coup attempts. I think he mentioned that Alex Cristoforo, there were like these coup attempts. Look, there was one in Belarus, or two in Belarus in the past, probably within that time period. And there's one in Turkey. The U.S. tried to overthrow Erdogan, you know, but yet they've moved on from that. And yet here, they're still talking about this January 3rd from 2020. Incredible stuff. You know, just keep this thing going. Like, keep the wars going. I tell you, you have to be sick sometimes. Or it makes you sick, thinking about how things are done in the United States, you know. Whatever happened to that country, you know? And then you got, like I said, Trudeau. You got all these, this is some bad stuff. Maybe I should say the same thing, like so many people are saying, you know, you should really get out. I think these countries are all doomed, and now Germany is doomed. Germany was fine under Merkel, you know, even though I really never liked Merkel. I liked Schroeder, who was, you know, the chancellor before Merkel, and they never really got a chance. They had way too many operatives. That kind of lets you know. You see that the West, the other ones in the West, the United States had lots of operatives in the government, and they really worked against Gerhard Schroeder. So anyway, they got him out. Then Merkel, she was able to toe the line quite good and maybe play off a little bit of both sides, you know. And but things were good, and Germany prospered. So, but now look at Germany. Now look at Germany. Now they're going on a nosedive. They're going to be practically nothing soon. Like I said, Russia has already now taken over Germany as the biggest economic power in Europe. Russia is now the biggest economic power in Europe. They moved up one place. And I think the next power above that as far as what they go by for their GDP, I think is Japan, and I think what is it? I think Russia needs to. I can't remember, but they're probably going to catch up and surpass Japan, and maybe Russia will be number 3 or 4 in the world at that time. I think they still say, well, right now actually China is the number 1 economic power in the world. Everybody should know that. That's very, very obvious. United States is supposedly number 2, and I think I don't know if it was Japan. I don't know who was number 3. I just remember looking at some chart, and I don't really pay much heed to a lot of that stuff anyway. Things change, and they're not necessarily that accurate anyway. So, but anyway, Russia is moving up. I think things are getting a little bit better in Belarus, but it's a little bit slower. A lot of there's been a lot of momentum in Russia, and I'm hoping a lot of that stuff comes to Belarus here, and we'll see what happens here. But Belarus is a good place. So, and now they're having the Union State. Energy costs are now quite low here, and I can trust me. There are things that are better in Belarus than they are in Russia. A lot of things. So, but anyway, I won't talk about that now. I'll just gradually, over the course of time, be talking about it a little bit more. But anyway, I didn't get any new subscribers from my last video. None at all. I got more subscribers when I wasn't putting out videos. So maybe that means I'm doing a bad job. Something. Maybe I have a good legacy, but I'm doing a bad job. But in any case, thanks for joining me for this one, and I'll see you on the next one. And you know, the whole schmear, subscribe if you haven't seen me before, and push that like button and all that kind of stuff. So, okay, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks again. Bye.